The family is an investment firm launched in Paris 3 years ago. We are now in London from 2 months now. We enjoy it a lot. So there is one subject that we want to talk about today, and we want to try a very interactive format. So just to know who is each other, who here has a startup or already launched a startup? So you're the mature guy. Who wants to launch a startup? Okay, so the one that don't raise their hand, get out. First step. No, I'm kidding. You can stay for the drinks. It's fine. One of the things we have at the family and that we notice with entrepreneurs is that they overspend in a lot of very stupid things. And to tell you a little story, I received a call a few weeks ago that made me totally mad. It was a top economic publication in France, and they call me and say, "Oh, we are watching you. We target you as a company. We want to add you in the list of the top 100 most growing company in France." And I was like, "Yeah, that's cool. Why not? Sure." Anyone read that kind of things yet? and the guy was like, "Yeah. So look." To be in the list, it will cost you 8,500 euro. And we offer you in same time an article and a video and a full package around you. It's very cheap. And I was like, what? And so I was so shocked that I just put a random message on Facebook saying like, oh, I just called 8,500 to be listed as a growing company. And everybody get mad. Like everybody was like, yeah, I got the same offer and blah, blah. It, like my world went mad. You know, my Facebook was open and I was having so much notification real time that my computer started to burn. I'm not kidding. Like it was starting to eat and be hot. I was like, close it. And I received like something like 1,200 likes in 2 hours, 600 shares. It was total madness. And then I realized a lot of people come and told me, you know, it's easy to be mad against the startup that pay this kind of thing, but usually we are a little bit lost about what is worth paying and what is not worth paying. And so the exercise I want to do with you is to try to give you a little bit of framework, and we can do that as a discussion. So you can tell me like what you think an entrepreneur should pay, and I tell you if it's a good thing to invest in and if it's not a good thing to invest in. So, a lawyer in regulated activity costs a lot, and if you want to launch a startup in a regulated activity, you have 2 strategies. Strategy 1 is that you work with very cheap lawyer, most of the time your friends, and you try to don't spend a lot. So very obviously that feedback will be, oh, I can do it for cheap, it's easy, no worry. And then the bill will go up because actually we are not specialists inside the regulation. And so the initial estimation will always go override and you will be stuck in a position where you cannot pay the bill. And there is something very weird about lawyers is that the hours they spend, whatever the hours are spent well or not, are due. And they have the law on their side. They are lawyers, so they know how to go after you. So you are in a kind of a very unequilibrium phenomena. Our very simple piece of advice for every regulated company is don't regulate yourself until launch, and don't regulate yourself to speak about your activity. There is something that people don't get about regulation, is that regulation starts at the moment where you start to get money from customers. And so most of the time, you have a very long time before you are on any radar about regulation. Very good example, we have a company called Menu Next Door inside our portfolio. They cook meals in any apartment and you sell it to your neighbor. It's a platform where anyone can become a chef. And like this will be the typical regulated activity where you can spend a lot in lawyers to get the legal framework, how it works, what will be, and it will be a total waste of time because it will take a lot of time until you get to the point where they will ask you this kind of thing. I think for them, it took them to reach 600 meals a day in Belgium to get their first question about how they operate. And they had already raised money and they already be in position to pay lawyers and all of that. So go-to-market in regulated industry are much more important because most of the time you will not go in jail if you don't regulate yourself for 3 months or 6 months. Most regulation authorities are very flexible. So pay attention. For example, it's very unequal. Like financial regulation is more weak than health regulation. Health regulation, like if you start to treat people without the right license, that sends you in jail directly. But I have another example in mind. We have one company a long time ago in our portfolio in France doing financial services. We told them to don't go to see the regulator, but to launch and see if the product works before doing all of that, and that they can reach maybe 100 or 200 beta users before going to regulation. But they were so obsessed about regulation that they spent 200,000 to get a license. And the first product decision have been to pivot to something that was unregulated. So like it took them 1.5 years, they speak with the regulator, they had like all these things to end up with a business model that was unregulated. And that's typical. Like that's typical of a startup that don't know what they are doing and that take time to understand what they are doing. And most of the time it will be totally foolish to go to see the best lawyer in the field. But when the time is right to spend, go to the best one. So the good thing about go to market first and then apply the right lawyer is that you can go to very specialized lawyers that are very good and that are the right one. I can give you an example about this kind of strategy. The Family. The Family is doing a regulated job for 3 years, and we did it totally unregulated. And it took us, we never received a letter asking us, are we regulated or not? No one never noticed it, that we are not regulated. And we asked for our regulation last month and we set up everything right. But the way we set up it is a way where it would have been impossible to set up 3 years ago because we was too poor, no leverage to do it right. So it looks really weird, but most of the time in regulated business, what really matters is your size, your leverage and power, and not the money you will spend in lawyers. So everything equal, otherwise, it makes sense to wait as much as possible before going and talk to regulation. And some countries are more violent than others. For example, in the US, regulated business can go mad. Like I was telling you about the cooking thing. There is a company that launched that in US a few weeks ago, and they put the first 3 chefs in jail. So it's like maybe in that case we should have go and speak to the regulator first. And we post it as a scary thing, like don't launch US. They are mad people. Anyway, they elected Donald Trump, so now it's done. So so it's crazy because in California, you are not allowed to cook at home and sell it for sanitary reason, because it will be seen as making you taking health risk. And that's a very American way of thinking, you know, like I will sue you because my coffee is too hot. I don't know if you know this very famous case in the McDonald's, like she got a coffee that was way too hot and she burned herself on her body, and McDonald's was fined 15 million because of that. Like in France, too hot, burn all yourself, toes to face. People will be like, you're stupid. Like there is no way a judge give you any money for that. Like, and so it can be very strategic to choose the first country. Menu next door makes sense in Belgium because Belgium is not like that crazy in terms of regulation. Like they are very nice, they talk to them, blah blah blah. When they became big, and even if it had been a little bit of a struggle, they was big enough to launch a real war. If they had done that before being anyone, we will have no leverage. So next kind of expense. Just give me one kind of expense and I tell you. Events. What? Events. That's a good question. So You mean events like organizing your own events or going to Web Summit?
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly the same
scam.
as
The funny thing is that we have one big conference now in Europe that is Web Summit that is so well marketed that they make everyone want to pay and they can get crazy amount of money just playing on the ego of the founders. So every year, 1 month before Web Summit, I always receive the same emails in our portfolio. Oh, we have this great news. We have been selected to Web Summit, and we just need to pay 8,000 to be there. And it's a great honor because the normal price is 16,000, but because they love us, they made it at 8,000. So the thing I do is that I do screenshot of all this email, and we do a wall of them, and we send them to the entrepreneurs saying, look how you have been selected. So actually you are in a random list, my friend, and everyone received this email, but they are so good at growth hacking. Like they really make people be like, oh my God, the price is changing. So good job. I mean, it's not a criticism against them. They are in the event business. If people are too stupid to pay something they don't need, it's their problem, not the Web Summit problem, just to be very clear about my opinion around that. So what do we tell about Web Summit? Web Summit is very easy. You have 3 experiences possible of Web Summit. You have the experience that you cannot access as a first-time entrepreneur. It's a VIP experience of Web Summit. So for example, when we send someone from our team at Web Summit, they go to every private dinner organized at Web Summit. They go to meet every VIP that are in town, and you have a kind of an invisible Web Summit happening in the same time than the regular Web Summit. So for us, paying the 2,000 or 3,000 entrance fee, inviting people to restaurant, blah, blah, it's a great use of our money because only the number of people who will meet in that concentration of time will be impossible to achieve. So that's the A experience of Web Summit. And then as a startup, you have 2 different kinds of experience of Web Summit. Taking a booth or being a visitor. I never saw the value and the difference between both. So I have a lot of argumentation around that. But the truth is that it's so crowded. You have only, like, you know, when you have a booth, it means to be a presenter without the right to move. Because you have a booth that is 1 meter square, so it's around your size. And so the only thing you have to do is to stay like that. So if you go in the alley and you stay like that in the alley, you have the same thing for half the price or 1/3 of the price. And I think early stage startups should not go to these events. There's a majority of people going to these events, most of the time because they have a little bit of budget and they raise money, so they are great clients because they pay directly. But the truth is that the only startup that should go to these kind of events are companies that have a very clear and strong product market fit and where the clients is other startups. For example, if you are a B2C startup, taking a booth, stupid. Because even the investors that are here are so overwhelmed that you will never have quality time with them. Like the first time I went to Web Summit, they give you as an investor this red thing, so it shows around that you are an investor, and you have the feeling to be a piece of meat in middle of sharks. It's like after 2 hours, I was like so full of pitch. My head was bumping that I went in my room waiting for the private dinner, and I was hiding myself, and I was getting pinged by other investors that was like, my God, it's insane. And they was all coming to my room that was next to the Web Summit to drink in my room. And it was like, how many times did you get pitched? 200? Yeah, I know, it's crazy. And so like the reality is that if you don't have other startups as a client, it doesn't provide value. So let's do the framework. Before product market fit, never go to event. Work and reach product market fit. After product market fit, if you are B2B and you are targeting startups, go to this kind of events because it's a huge concentration of clients. If you are B2C, just go as a visitor and try to get access to the VIP experience by randomness. By the way, I will give you my tricks because I don't use it anymore. Now I'm invited. But before, when I was like you and I don't get invited, you know how I get inside every top parties and any events? You just take the name of a guy that is famous, but nobody knows his face. For example, one day I get to one of the most private dinner, and I arrived, and she was like, "Are you on the list?" I was like, "Yeah, Eric Schmidt." "Oh, good morning, Eric Schmidt," and she let me in. And like it works every time because they don't have the picture of the people with the name. So of course, if you take Mark Zuckerberg, it doesn't work because even the guy that works at the entry knows Mark Zuckerberg. But if you take a famous guy, second rank, they don't check. And the funny thing is that when the real Eric Schmidt came, they refused him. I'm not kidding. Because the guy was like, yeah, it's already in, he's already checking. And it was like, no, it's me, I'm the real one. Yeah, sir. Everybody told me that. So, so it created a big trauma. And of course, I didn't go to the seat of Eric Schmidt at the dinner. I took a card of someone else, but here, get down, and then I was seated in the middle of 200 people. How do you want that she recognize me or remember me? So that technique works all the time, and it's unimaginable how much of a VIP you can have experience just on the willingness to hustle a little. So but don't do that if you are not product market fit. Because the worst thing that can happen to you is to get access to these kind of events, to get access to these kind of people and have nothing interesting to tell them. Just that you're starting and you don't know what you are doing and you would love to have them as a mentor. Like the free things to say to someone so it goes away, you know? Like imagine you're on Tinder and everybody that swipe with you asks you for marriage. After 3 days you will be freaked out. And it's exactly the same thing for all these people. You know, they really want to help people, they really want to pay back, but the only thing that people ask is for money or mentorship or a lot of things that really takes a lot of commitment. Not like clear feedback or something you can work on and go like a first date, you know? And think about that. Think about the dating analogy and you will see your networking capabilities will be much better. Next, expense. Yeah, please.
Your office space or workspace.
Office space. So my advice, so I'm very hardcore about that. My advice before product market fit, don't take an office, and especially a co-working space. So I will tell you, and it's a very personal advice. I think co-working space are evil. In many, yeah, evil. Fucking evil. To a point you don't imagine. Because every startup that is serious about what they are doing, their goal is to build a cult. It's to build something unique. And the only way to do that is to have your own space from the beginning. Why? Because if you share in an open space with someone else, the culture will mix, and so you will never be able to build your own piece of culture. It will always be, by the way, the culture of the most average guy around you. Because that's how it works in a social group. If you take 20 people and you put them in a room, after 6 months, everybody will be at the level of the worst guy in the room. Because let's say that you are very focused and you really work hard. You know how many times you will stop a day? The number of times that the worst guy in the room will stop. Because your social willingness of doing like others will always take against your willingness of working hard. And you want a very simple experience to look at that. There was like this crazy video on Facebook where everybody in the room was sit down and going up just when they hear the beep. And so there was a beep and everybody was sitting down and getting up. And then someone come in the room and she doesn't know that everybody is part of an experience. And so she looked at the people that just sit down, and after 5 minutes, she starts to do it like the same. And then everybody go out. One by one, they take out everyone and she stay alone. You will think that not having any idea of what she's doing, she will stop. No, she continue. She continued to sit and go up and sit and go up every time she hear beep. And then random people get inside the waiting room. They don't know what is happening and they start to do the same. Even one guy asked why everybody's doing that and everybody's like, we have no idea. Someone told us, actually no. Actually, why are we doing that? And that's what happened in co-working space. You take the worst guy inside the co-working space and he will do the same. So until the moment you are rich enough so you can take your own space. So the problem when you have things like WeWork or blah, 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 is that you have two modes. You can take an open desk, and that's horrible, or you can take a closed desk, and that's fine. Because I'm not saying that they don't offer very convenient space. It's just that if you are not isolated in your own space, you cannot build your own culture. So my advice are always the same. If you are pre-product fit, take a house. By the way, the best thing you can do is leave everybody together in the same apartment. You and your co-founder move in, because the probability you will get along doing that is very low. So better it happen early than happening late. And you don't imagine how many startups we killed like that. They move in together, 3 months after there is no startup. Because they are like, yeah, the guy never put the butter back in the fridge. He freaked me out. And you're like, yeah. And one day you will talk about finance and everything will be fine. So better that it happened early. So pre-product market fit, live together. Post-product market fit, take your own office. Like that, you never need to share a co-working space. And by the way, do you know why every entrepreneur that starts, his first reaction is always to take an office? For 2 very simple reasons. The first reason is called managing your own sanity. Because you don't want to look crazy. You don't want to tell yourself that you are crazy. So you want external validation that what you are doing is fine. So you take an office. Because going to the office is one of the most natural things everybody do in his day to show everyone that is not crazy. If someone stay all day long on the couch with a computer on him and showering every 3 days, everybody will be like, this guy is weird. But actually, maybe this guy is really building something that matters. Because you cannot really judge from external perspective. If someone take a shower and go to the office, he looks good. He can tell his mom that he's doing something in his life. He has an external validation. By the way, that's why the market of co-working space is booming. Because WeWork, all of them, they sell that legitimation for everyone on market. So that's what people really buy. It's not the office. It's that they can go and take a coffee with everyone and talk about the startup and feel less isolated and feel with the others. You know, most of them pitch it like, yeah, like that, you exchange with other people and you get ideas and your company is better. Bullshit. Like, what is the probability that you take on a random guy and that he look at you and hear you for 5 minutes and then give you the idea of your life? Like, it will be better to call people randomly by phone to get that effect. You know, you can do every day 10 people totally randomly by phone and just ask them like, yeah, I'm doing that, what do you think? And like, I think it will be more efficient than counting on the people that, by the way, doesn't have any experience. So the good thing about all of that is that if you look for an office, it means that you should be mature enough. Because if not, it will be just spending money in the wrong thing. And you have thousands of things where you can spend your money more smartly. Next expense. Yeah. Salaries. I think that's the best thing you can spend money on. Like in a company, there is nothing you can put more value on than salaries. Because putting value on salaries means attracting great talent. But little bit of a problem. If you pay people too much too early, you have the risk of attracting the wrong people. Because you have the risk of attracting people that come for you, not because they love you, but because of your money. So let's say that, again, it's very different before product market fit and after product market fit. My best advice is that you should hire no one before product market fit. Like every startup that hire a lot of people before product market fit, they always die. You know why? Because everybody has an opinion, and because you are before product market fit, everyone you hire, they want to provide value. And because you are not product market fit, the only way they can provide value is to give you an idea. And that means nightmare. That means all day long debate. That means having a lot of people that run. So before product market fit, you should hire as low as possible, as slow as possible, and pay as little as is possible. So because it should be a time where equity should be high and salary should be low. Post product market fit is the quite opposite. You should pay everyone as high as he needs to run your company, and you should not really care about that because you should be attracting the best people as fast as possible. Because you know what you are doing, you are just trying to scale and grow. By the way, you see every advice I give you, I try to see it before and after product market fit. I think every time you read something on the internet about startup, try to think if this advice it's done for before product market fit or after product market fit. I even wanted to launch a widget on Chrome so you can tag article and it give you a warning, because that's why most of the startup advice looks so contradictory. Because you will have some people that will tell you spend a lot and other people that tell you don't spend. And all this conversation become very clear if you do this split between before you know what you do, after you know what you do. And by the way, it's counterintuitive, but if you want to scale a big startup, you have to pay better than everyone, because if you want to attract a lot of people that should not be taking this level of risk, they should be fine in terms of salaries, equity, and all of that. So no one never gets his company bankrupt after product market fit because he paid the people right. The opposite is more true. There's a lot of people that don't pay right, so people don't stay long. So you have a lot of other, how you say, you have a lot of churn, and it creates a lot of trouble internally. Next.
If you're going to hire a CTO or a developer, is it better to find someone who just works for equity, or to raise money and pay an agency or a freelancer, or both? Like, what, should you spend money on that, or spend as much time as you need until you find someone who works for equity?
So that's an interesting question, because developers are the new diva. Yes. So before it was rapper, now it's developer. It's the same thing. So if you find a developer that rap, that's even better. Like, it should be your criteria of success. So the problem with developers is that real good developers only work for the best developer. Like, one of the things people don't tell the people that try to hire a developer and are struggling to do that is that they don't realize how much it's because of them that is happening. So if you are a company that needs top developers, you have no other choice than having a founding CTO that is respected by developers. But because before money, what developers really buy is a chance to work for someone they respect. And that is very irrational, because what it means to respect someone can change a lot from a developer to another. So for every company that don't have internally a founding CTO that makes other respect, they will always have a very hard time to fill that job. Because the only people that will fill that job are the people that don't really respect you, because the ones that really respect themselves and respect like their talent, they will always go to work for someone impressive. You have like, it's a little bit like chess player, or like, let's say you are a soccer player, a football player. Where you want to play? In the club where there is the best player, because you want to be with the best one. So if you are a level, you will not go in a club where there is no other player but just money. That will happen only if you are a bad one, or average one, or old one. And so that's why, for example, Saudi Arabia, when they build a team of football player, they get all the retired guy that no one wants anywhere else. And it will be exactly the same thing with your company. You can have a ton of cash, but that will never attract the right people. So focus on how can you get a very impressive CTO inside your company that will be really a lead, and then it will become more natural. And until that moment, the problem with agencies is that they are very unnatural for startups. Because an agency, they have a starting point to a project and an ending point. And the problem with agencies is that it doesn't make sense for most of them to not have an ending point, because they have to deliver something. And in most startups, there is no ending point. Like, look, you are in Go Cardless office. What is the ending point of Go Cardless? It's not like Go-Cardless can launch a feature and say, it's done. We have finished the product. You can go all back home and now we will sell it. Like every day you have a list of feature, bugs, things you have to change, you have to adapt, you have to iterate. So it's a very continuous process, and so it cannot be external. Most of the startups that have an external technical force, they suffer from that rigidity because they are not able to go from one step to another. So the good answer is that you should focus about internalizing that, finding someone that gets really the respect of people, and don't externalize it. And the problem is that it's more and more complicated to do it because most of the good technical people now they launch company themselves. So the best advice I can give to people that are on the business side, go to work to a technical guy and develop his ID instead of having your own ID that get developed by someone, because this mentality of I have an ID and someone would come and develop it for me is less and less true, because these people watch my videos and so now they launch their own startup. Sorry for the business guy. Next. One expense that seems obvious for you, please.
Accounting and finance services.
That's a great one. So, accounting and finance services. Before product market fit, never do your accounting. Yeah, that's a true advice. So, very simple strategy. So, it's less and less true, but let's say that you have different answer depending on the market, because now in France, UK, Germany, you can start to see cheap answer to the accounting problem. So the truth is that try to find someone that automates accounting at maximum, and you have more and more companies that do that for a very cheap price. But try to find someone that is very simple. You can automate a lot of things and you can keep this feature as low as possible. Don't take a CFO, don't take advisory, just do it plain and stupid. Post-product marketing, when you start to have real money, find a part-time CFO as fast as you can, because it will help you manage predictability. And there is one thing that is really hard for an entrepreneur to understand, is that 10 times 100, it's not 100. You know, the problem when you spend money is that when you have the feeling of spending 100, if you do it 10 times, at the end of the day, your feeling is that you spend only 100. Like you will not really have the feeling that you're spending 1,000, and that can be the job of a CFO. But a CFO can come only in a company that have budget, capital, product marketing, something predictable. By the way, I saw a lot of teams that have a founding CFO. I'm always amazed of what the guy do. Like it's always my first question. What do you do? Yeah, I manage the finance side. Okay, so what do you do? And yeah, I try to take care of all the financial aspect. Okay, so describe me your day today. So I wake up, take breakfast, waited 2 hours, sent an email. It's horrible. Never take a founding CFO in your team. It doesn't. You need product guy at the founding of your team. I think in few years, the accounting problem will not be a problem anymore. Someone will have won the artificial intelligence battle. For example, I never understand why in your bank statement the invoice is not inside. You know, like when you pay by credit card, why the invoice is not attached to the credit card? It will be so easy for a bank to do that, and your accounting will be automatic. But until banks realize that they have like this huge opportunity of data, imagine the level of data banks will have if it joins the invoice in every transaction. One day a bank will wake up and will be like, yeah, it's stupid. But until that magical day, or maybe someone else will find a solution. But until that, try to stay as little and as low as possible around this kind of function. And don't do business plan before product market fit. That's an expense to avoid. There's a ton of people on the market that sell business plan thing like advisory and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't make sense. It never works. Advertising, that's easy. Before product market fit, never do any advertising. After product market fit, try to find the right advertising. And the only way to do that is to make it profitable. And the only way to make advertising profitable is to test as big as possible, as fast as possible. But never, never lose money on advertising. If you don't have a business model where it makes sense, where you can write an equation like cost of acquisition equal a certain part of my revenue, and that part should be less than 1/3. If you cannot write an equation like that, forget it. Forget paid advertise, because it means you have to find other way. If you can write an equation like that, for example, you are selling a SaaS at 10, and it costs you 1 year 120, and costs you 40 to get, and only 3 months to get people. It makes sense to pay paid advertise. The first thing is that it's easier and easier to quantify offline advertising. So the very idea that offline advertising is not quantified and online advertising is perfectly quantified is more and more false, because now you can track the result, and you have like the other thing is that you can track the result by comparison. You can see the effect before and after your campaign and see that your cohort are better. The second thing is that when you reach to a point, so now Captain Train is part of Trendline, and Trendline is I think 1 billion revenue company, spending 5 or 10 million a year for branding. It's like for you be like, oh, I don't need to buy a juice at the supermarket because my body only needs water. So why on earth I will buy an orange juice? You know, you can spare it. So same thing for $1 billion revenue company a year. So they reach a level where that don't really matter. And again, it will be a question of which level you reach in your development. If you take another example, we have a company called La La Lab in Paris. They reached product market fit 2 years ago. They are spending around 1 million a month on Facebook. 1 million a month on Facebook. They reach to the point where there is no one left to buy on Facebook on French market. Like they basically targeted 100% of the people they can target on Facebook. So they say, oh, you know what? We should go on the advertising in the suburb. And they did better with 50,000 in suburb a week, so 200,000 a month, but 1 million a month on Facebook. So just make you think about like your preconception of online marketing against offline marketing. Why? Because online marketing is going like that, so the price are going like that, especially on Facebook and Google, but advertising in suburb are going like that. So you can negotiate actually incredible price, and that have a direct effect on their business that is very impressive compared to the Facebook. So they reduced Facebook by 2/3 because they did 1/3 of that budget. So they cut their spending by 50%. They have the same monthly revenue growth, and it's going very well. So you see, for them, like if you look, if they had done that 5 months ago, they will have saved 3.5 million. When you spend 1 million per month, it can go very fast, but your preconception costs you a lot. And that is typical of a case they did not test early. And by the way, when they told me that they are doing the suburb advertise, I was like, really? Suburb? But that was a stupid reaction. Like you should always be open-minded about what you test, especially when you reach this kind of level of spending. One of the things that is so hard about advertising is that small cohort never react like the big cohort, and you want to always think that it's linear. So you spend 50,000 in a group, and you say, oh, it works so well in conversion, so let's just spend 200,000. And then your group change so much in demographics, social characteristic, that the return is totally unpredictable, and it goes down. And the time you take to realize offline can kill your company. Because you have spent so much growing that. So again, it's very touchy, and it depends on how much big it represents. But for example, the most concrete example of that is American TV ads. American TV ads can go crazy in terms of budget because you have so many channels, so many kind of way of buying advertised, Like Hillary Clinton campaign is a good example of that. She overspent Donald Trump 4 times in TV ads. You know the result. But the truth is that they should have looked at the demographic, but it's so hard to get the data that they look at the data from a macro perspective and never from a micro perspective. And then it's like in 6 months, it's you run in the ground. So it's a very good point. But again, when you are a startup, you are never at this kind of level. So if you do it smart and small, it can work. But you have to be sure and advertise that nothing is linear. Like I love when I see this pitch from startups, is that they come and they say, we spent 200 on Facebook and we got 20,000 in revenue. So if we spend 20,000, we get 20 million in revenue. They just apply the thing. And of course, when they spend 20,000 in revenue, they have the same revenue. It's just that Facebook boosts them so much on the small set they are, because it was so nothing for Facebook, but it was easy. And when you start to be big, they don't have the right liquidity for you. And then your result go like that. So another example. Question?
Network costs.
What is a network cost?
Surveys.
So I think that will be a great expense. If you need it, it's kind of obvious in terms of your infrastructure. Maybe it's an expense you should not try to save too much on. I see a lot of very geek people that don't want to go on the cloud because the cloud is expensive and they prefer to build their own infrastructure. And then when it starts to scale, it becomes a nightmare because it's not their job to scale an infrastructure. So it depends, again, if you're a company that is a technical company where everything is built around a custom infrastructure, it can make sense. For example, we have Algolia in our portfolio. They do a search engine SDK. Of course, it makes sense for them to build their own server. So they build their own hardware, all of that. But if you're an average company that just need to scale their user base, it makes sense to go on Amazon Cloud Services. So for this kind of expense, because we don't want that people get an arbitrage about them, we convince every cloud provider and every network provider to give very big perks to the startup at the family. For example, Amazon is giving $100,000 in free service. DigitalOcean give 100,000. Microsoft is so desperate, but they give 300,000 because they hope that someone will take their deal one day. So that's the way we solve that. So we think it's a very important expense. You should not be cheap, but we build the right unfair. So at the beginning, it's something that costs you zero until the moment where you reach a certain point of development. Question?
It links to your first example, but how important do you think it is to pay for press, like pay for people writing about you?
So, PR, great thing. Did I broke something? No. PR, look, never pay for PR. Never. A PR agency called you before or after product market fit, don't answer. It's easy. It doesn't make sense for a startup to pay for PR. Why? Because PR makes sense for big companies when they have so much inquiries and so much need of press that journalists are okay to talk to someone else than the CEO. But until you reach that point, it will always be a shame that it's not the founders that try to develop the PR. By the way, the best advice you can get from PR, it's from Michael Zibel from YC, is PR don't exist, just treat it as a business development thing. Like journalist or a client is the same thing. It's like there is no, I don't know why people put a magical circle around journalists and say they are not human beings, No, actually they are human beings, they have no time and they should be treated as a client. So there is so many people that are so desperate to get an article about their company that they are ready to pay a lot of money for it. By the way, I can understand that. It feels so good to have your face on a piece of paper that you can show to your mom. So she can put it on the fridge and tell all her Lebanese friends that you are successful. So, very personal story. But don't pay for that. Even your mom is not worth it. I mean, offer her a trip for the price of the PR. It will work the same effect. It's such a shame. It's such a shame that people pay so much for PR. Like average retainer for PR are so high for startups. I see so often startups that pay 5,000 a month for PR contract to get articles and never provide anything. We have a little piece of video at the family that I use when companies don't understand that. That a lot of companies, when I tell them that, let's do a test. Who here bought something in the last 4 weeks because he saw it in the press? Because he saw it in the press. Did you buy something? Did you bought something in the last 4 weeks because you read an article about it? Yeah, internet, TV, whatever. What? Yeah, but that was not the press. That was my wall. But you see the point.
Yeah, but it wasn't the press.
It was my wall, not the press. You didn't look for the information in the press. I did that work and put it here and say it's cool. So it's crazy. So if we are honest about ourselves, we see that we all change in our behavior. And still we do fake things in our startups. We are like, yeah, of course, I never bought anything in the press, but others do. You know, it'd be like, yeah, I'm not stupid, but they are. So don't do it. It's not worth it. We have this little piece of video that I love. Unfortunately, I lost it on my phone. But it was an interview of 2 founders. And so the interview was going like that. Can you tell me where you get featured on? And the guy was like CNBC, MSN, American TV, blah. Like they got something like 85 TV shows to feature their product on. And I was like, how many subscribers did you get? 100. And it was like you can feel the desperation in their face. Like they worked 6 months on the PR launch, took one of the best agency, and it produced nothing. And it will be more and more often like that. The kind of product, anyway, the product that are press compatible, the press take them by themselves. They don't really need you. And when it's not compatible, it's not worth it to force it. No one is successful because he's in the press. Everybody successful at some point end up in the press. It works more that way. So it's never a first step and it's never worth that you pay money for it. For example, like if we take our example, like it will never make sense for us to pay for PR in France, but maybe it makes sense for us to pay a PR in the US. Like if we want to make the family big in the press in the US, it will make sense because we are big in Europe, but unknown in the US, then the PR works. Then you can have someone very professional that does the job for you because you are not here. And people will not be, they will be fine that there is a PR because they will be like, yeah, the founders are in France, London, Berlin. Of course, they cannot be on the ground in the US pitching journalists. And so at that point, the PR function makes sense because you use it as a way to leverage something that already exists, that is already big, and that people want to develop. But if we had taken a press agent in France, it will be so stupid. It will be like, it will not understand what you do. It will just send like all this press release all time long and will hope that one of his friends write about you, like small article like that, and it will be, you know what? You got 2 articles, we should increase your retainer. I'm having a huge impact on you. Next. What? So search engine optimization don't exist anymore. It's done, it's dead. I'm sorry, are you in?
No, I told him that.
You told him that? Ah, cool. I like you. No, like the only guys that still do search engine optimization are scammers. It became a big scam. Like Google became so smart, but it's so hard to understand what he favorizes or what doesn't favorize. So every black SEO thing become bullshit. You want to do SEO, work hard. There's 3 things that work in SEO nowadays. Original content, original content, original content. Like that's the only thing you can, and by the way, very good quality original content that people interact with, very good quality content that people interact with, because and a lot of backlinks, and real backlinks, by the way, because if your backlinks come from websites that are cheap backlinkers, you get down. So you know, there is some rumors that now DeepMind is big in the Google search engine, and that you have an artificial intelligence that decide for who gets favorized or not. I don't know if it's true or not, but I will believe it if it's true, because it's like crazy. And even you know, we have one company that is very black hat about SEO, like the kind of people that really know what they are talking about, and they reached to be #1 in Google on a crazy request that there was no way they can be #1, how much competition there was on this request. And so they worked really, really hard on that, like almost 1.5 years of doing black SEO to a level that it was like the only focus of the company. And they stayed #1 for 3 months. And one day, one guy discovered it at Google. And you know what happened? They don't even exist in Google anymore. Like, they get blacklisted. And it's not only like they try to change name to get back to their business. And even the change of name is not going up. Because my theory is that now Google is detecting pattern about them. And so they have to change totally their strategy of acquiring. So really pay attention to what people offer in SEO. No. Do real things. Don't fake it. Don't fake it with God Google. Because God Google knows about you, you don't know. You know, like the level of data they have, it's unbelievable. And the level of smartness, intersection of that amount of data with that amount of smartness, there is a certain point where your fake SEO consultant cannot be of any help in face of that. So,
Do you think it's not valuated into the content that is generated by users?
do real one. Real one. If it's real, genuine content that is generated by user and quality and blah, you will go up. If it's not real, you will go down. And the definition of real is your heart. It's like Google now know how to read your heart. I'm not kidding. And even if you find the tricks, it will be always temporary. So don't play that much with that. And you don't imagine how many companies around the world that have been killed by Google. I think the most funny one is On-Demand Media, one of the biggest IPO in the farm content industry. So it's a company I'm not sure you will know. It was a company that became so good at creating farm content. Their only job was to create fake website where you click, meaning that they will do a website, for example, about credit scoring, and the only content of the website was link paid by Google for credit scoring. So they was taking revenue from Google because they was better at SEO than Google itself. And the company became so big that at some point they IPO at 3.5 billion valuation. The day they IPO, 2 engineers at Google get really, really mad, and they changed the algorithm of Google. It was like one of the biggest projects of change ever to go against the content industry farm. And they divided the revenue of the company by 124 hours after the IPO. And the shares sink like that at the IPO. And so the founders look their company burn because Google wake up. And these people, they created one of the company that now is the most favorized by Google, Testmade. Testmade.com have been launched by the most evil people in SEO, and now they are doing the total opposite. Quality content, original, lot of them, huge user-generated base, a lot of content, a lot of engagement. And when you talk with them about SEO, they tell you from Panda, because it was called Panda, this iteration, you cannot do anything. You know, one of the best SEO agencies in the world, they tweeted SEO is dead, and they close the agency, and they do something else now. So if they think that, forget it. Again, don't do AdWords if you don't have a clear business model. you have thousands of strategy of acquisition. Acquisition become a big job. You can read thousands of articles about that. Don't take it easy. I mean, it's your duty as an entrepreneur to understand that there is not quick answer to a problem big like that. You know, I started in a generation of internet where acquisition was the most easy part of your job. Like my first website was an antique shop online. And you know how you get 20,000 users a day at that time? You go on yahoo.com, you go in antique shop, you go online and you subscribe. And then when people type antique shop, you are the only result that go. Like it's not like you have two sites. No, there is only you. Because in 1998, that was the only result you can find on Yahoo was my antique shop. So, so now type antique shop on Google and laugh. Like your life as entrepreneur became so complicated in terms of acquisition. So the very simple idea that something that complicated can be solved by something simple is stupid. So you have to work hard. There is no other way. And one of the best way to work hard now is to make a very good product. Because word of mouth is still very important. Question?
Really low expenses, almost no expenses, and really high returns.
The less intensive, so the less intense capital industry now, the problem is more and more they become capital intensive. It will be hard to give you a generalization. I will give you an example. If you look at the transportation industry, Uber is spending millions a day in their operation, expansion, blah, blah, blah. We have a company at the family called ENG that compete against Uber in Paris. And because they found the right segment, car at night, they did with 300,000 what Uber was unable to do with 40 million. And now this company is almost 200 million runway company a year with 300,000. So you see, it's very low amount of investment, huge return, but because it's not because of the industry, but it's because these entrepreneurs are the smartest one. And they did things that no one at Uber was able to think or able to copy or able to do. So in every industry, you will always have a cheap way or an expensive way. By the way, we have like all these entrepreneurs that are bad at fundraising. Sometimes it's a very good news for them that they are bad at fundraising because they keep going and do incredible company without fundraising. We have some entrepreneurs that are so bad at pitch that even if they have a great company, no one wants to give them money because they are too stressful. You have the feeling you understand what they do and they come in front of you and they pitch you and you're like, oh my God, like it's awful. And actually they build incredible company, but it's totally invisible because they are bad at pitching. But these companies, they can build incredible return because they are forced to stay smart in the constraint of capital because no one wants to give them capital. For example, we have a company that, like this company is in Bitcoin. I think it's one of I said it's our only company in Bitcoin. So if I say it, he will get mad, but I will say it. It's one of our weirdest entrepreneurs. And every time he tried to raise, he fell. So the pattern is always the same. He come and tell you, I need 100,000 because if I don't get the 100,000, it's impossible I go to the next step. And so you're introducing people call you back and say, that guy is awful. Why do you support him? I don't know, he looks good. No, it doesn't look good for me. Yeah, in your perspective, but in our perspective of business, it looks good because we see him building his business. So he tried to fundraise for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. And then at a certain point, he gets so angry that he go and build his company back. That guy stay a waiter for 1.5 years. He was doing waiter in restaurant to pay for his company because no one was ready to give him even 10,000. And so he switched to the next movement. He went from 0 to 100,000 euro a month in volume in 1 year. And after 1 year, he said, you know, now I'm 100,000 a month. I should raise. And you're like, yeah, you can try. And then you go 5-6 weeks, no one invests, he gets back pissed off, he works, and he reach 1 million a month in revenue. And now he's like, yeah, 1 million a month is like, I'm having this big vision, I need to raise, blah, blah. And then the only offer he got was the guy was like, yeah, I don't know, maybe I can give you 100K for 20% of your company. The guy was like, I'm doing fucking 1 million a month. Yeah, but it's uncertain, blah, blah, blah. And so the guy is so mad that he came back and now he tried to go to the third stage without money. And I'm sure he will succeed. And the best thing that happened in his life, it was that he was unable to raise. Because each time his plan failed. Like the plan he wanted to do with the money was never the right one. So if that guy have raised, it will be a fucking bankrupt company now. Because he will never have been forced to go to the next stage. So you see, sometimes not being able to raise can make you very smart around what you should do.
He wasn't able to raise because his pitch was bad?
No, because because I think it's a personal thing. How to make it? There is some people, okay, they have incredible good art, but there is no way they date anyone. You see what I mean? Same things. It's like there is things that are so irrational with investor, like make you uncomfortable. As an entrepreneur, it makes you uncomfortable as a human being, because I don't know, it's weird. So it doesn't go like that, and you don't imagine how often it happens. The other way also, like there is some people that are so good at raising, that their life is so easy, like they just have a pitch deck and they raise. Like no traction, nothing, just an idea, and they raise. And like we have the opposite is a girl inside our portfolio. Like she's so good at raising, but it should be her job. Like she has no company, but she's in Series B. No, really. Like one day I asked myself, maybe someone will wake up and ask her what she's doing with all this money, you know? But no, she's like so good. And when really, like, I invested in her fucking company. So even my personal money. And sometimes I ask myself why I did that. And when you put her in one room with anyone, you want to give her money. It's like crazy. And yeah, some people are good, some people are not. So the problem is that it's not linked to your ability to operate a company.
So to be a good hustler and a good sales guy, effectively,
Yeah.
a girl, to
Yeah.
raise her money.
Yeah, it's just about sales. Raising money is about sales. You have two ways of raising money. Being good at sales, or your company is that obvious that even if you are not, people pour money because it's rational. But it's really hard to reach that point. You had a question now. No, it's okay. Okay. Last one. Please.
When should you decide to like either give equity or spend money on accelerators or incubators?
That's a good question. Never. She gave. No, look. You know, there is this question about accelerator, incubator, blah, blah, blah. When is the right time to join? Never join one of these organizations if you think that you need them to go to the next stage. Because most of these organizations need you to go to the next stage. You know, very often when companies tell me, why should I join the family? What do you provide me? I often say, not much, but you will provide me a lot. And you will give a lot to the family. Why? Because that's the only way to be inside the community that give back a lot. You know, if you attract people that are in this kind of mentality, then you have a community that everyone will be in this kind of mentality. And so even if you give more than you receive at the beginning, on the long term, you will be in a community that will give you much more, very mathematically, than what you will have give. And so the very simple way to see that is that you should tell yourself, does the equity that I'm giving, will they have more value if I stay alone or not? And if it's equal or less, you should give it. And that's why, for example, one of the things we do at the family is that we tell people if at some point you feel uncomfortable with the equity you gave us, you can take it back. It's contractually written. So at any moment, You can say, look, I'm not happy, I take back the equity. And you take back and go. And it's fine. Because even if you want to screw us, it's better to get screwed early than late. You know, because if you screw us early, it will not be a big loss. If you screw us at IPO, it will be horrible. Like that, I will not sleep at night. But at the beginning, it doesn't really matter. But you see, we put that responsibility in the hand of the founders. And so for a lot of people, it doesn't make sense. Like the first thing, if you want to join the community, is that do you like the community? Are you a community person or not? There is some people that are really fine to be by themselves, doing everything by themselves, be very isolated. In that case, it doesn't make sense to go and join the accelerator. You know, there is like this, there is some people that are like, yeah, if you don't join the accelerator, you cannot succeed. Like, it's such a bullshit. Like, where Google was not in the accelerator, Facebook was not in the accelerator, and they did okay. So, so like the empirical case. And you have, like, Uber was not an accelerator, created the same year than Airbnb, and was at YC. Like, what is the difference in the life of Airbnb of YC? It's infinite. Because YC will not be YC if it did, YC will not be YC if it didn't have Airbnb, but Airbnb will not be Airbnb if it did not go to YC. Because the company they will have been is impossible to know. You never know, like, what is the cause and what is the consequence. So that's my way of thinking about it. Do you feel comfortable or don't you feel comfortable? If you feel comfortable, do it. But don't try to find like this obvious return on investment, because you will always end up sad, even at YC or Techstar or all of that. Because the truth is that the real impact will always be random. I think there is some company that should give us 95% of their equity. Of course they don't. And they exist for every company that should don't even give us 5%, you know? Because we really didn't do anything. And some company we did everything. But that's what happened in the group. It's random somehow. So the framework is quite simple. Before product market fit, don't spend money. Before product market fit, you have only one thing to do. Speak to your customer, build the product. Every expense out of these two things are stupid expense. It's very easy. We can play the game for thousands and thousands and thousands of hours on every single expense. Nothing makes sense because you are not yet a real company. After product market fit, everything makes sense. And that's the moment where you have to be smart about how you allocate capital. And one of my way of knowing if an expense is right or not is to always ask myself, does it help my growth or not? If yes, you should do it in big time, and you should not be picky because growth produces everything. Like, for example, a very stupid attitude will be to not take a sales because it's too expensive when that guy can provide you revenue. Like, that will be a very small way of thinking about the problems. Thank you very much.
Girl, I found it.